Greetings, fellow sickos. We are back. We're back on Dan on Golf. I am back. Got back late last night from Mexico. Wonderful wedding. Shout out Poogie and Scout. I wore a big hat the whole time, so I wouldn't be sunburned for this. I think I did a pretty good job. I also got the email to check into my flight to Orlando for Bay Hill while I was still in the air on the way back from Mexico, so that was a little dark. But we're here. We're here. It was a great weekend of golf. I'm joined again by Ben Boscovich. You passed your audition the first time, so you're back in that chair. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me.
What's
up, my dogs?
What's up, dogs? One thing before we get in today, live chat. I want the live chat to be more active. Whoa. I want the live chat to be more active. Ben's going to be scanning it and kind of checking. But we have some parts in the show today. There's a Q&A section with Alan Shipnuck where if you guys submit your questions, we can answer them live on air. If someone makes a funny comment about the show, Ben's going to be looking, and we have the ability to show that and talk about it live. So I want to start this off by saying I love the PGA Tour, and I love PGA National, and I love the Cognizant Classic, formerly the Honda Classic. But I think part of a healthy, loving relationship is speaking up when something's not right. If I don't fold my laundry for 4 straight days, my wife does and has every right to call me out for it. And something wasn't right about last week's tournament. The golf course was far too easy. So I'm going to just start by reading this stat. From 2013 through 2020, the winning scores were as follows. 6 under. I don't know if I'm starting at 2013 or 2020, but these are the numbers: 9 under, 8 under, 6 under, 9 under, 12 under, 8 under, 9 under, 6 under. That's an average of 8.3 under par. This week, 8 under would have been in a tie for 42nd. You might be thinking, but the players are better now. Yeah, but they're not that much better than they were, 5 years ago. You might also say there wasn't any wind. That's not in their control. That is true, but there was something in their control, and they got it wrong, and it was the overseed. You also might be thinking, oh, they changed the 10th hole to a par 5, so really the winning score wasn't 19 under, it was 15 under. 15 under is still way too low. You might also be thinking that par is a social construct. It is, but social constructs matter, and public perception matters. And when we saw everyone and their mother shooting 6 under on Thursday, the core fans had a problem with that. There are certain tournaments that have an identity. And one of them is the old Honda Classic, the Cognizant Classic, and the identity is it's difficult. You're going to get your teeth kicked in. I remember all these Tiger Woods, the battling there with Rory McIlroy. Like getting to 10 under really, really meant something, and it didn't this week. And my phone was buzzing with players complaining about the overseed and how much softer it was. One guy just saying, it's so dumb. And it wasn't just players complaining to me. They were complaining in public. We have a clip of Billy Horschel and his take on the setup this week.
Listen, you got to tip your hat to him. He shot 12 on the par, 59 in PGA National, which no one ever thought. But it is a little disappointing that, I say the condition of the course is very scoreable. But at the same time, you still got to go out there. You still got to hit golf shots. You still got to make putts. But this will be, right now, if scoring sort of stays the way it is going in the afternoon, I'm going to suspect it is because there's not much wind projected this afternoon. This will be the lowest scoring average in the history of this tournament by, I'm going to say, a shot and a half.
That's about what it is, yeah.
And like I said, it's just a little disappointing because it's such a great test of golf.
It's not taking away anything from Joe Highsmith and his performance, and we're going to get to that in a little bit. It's not taking away, it's just the course was too easy. The overseed made it too soft. Joel Gehman, he took to Twitter, I think, before he even teed off in his first round and said, I miss the old PGA National. And this is a good graphic because it shows that it's not just about what the scoring average is to par, it's the raw number. I mean, the average in 2018 is 72.3. This was on Thursday when it was playing its easiest, but you still had guys shooting 64 basically all weekend. And there was some speculation, why did they overseed? It looks better on TV. It's greener, so it pops better. But like I said, there are certain tournaments that have identities. And I'm not saying every week needs to be like a U.S. Open test, like Kapalua, for example. It's the first tournament of the year. There's wide open fairways. Like, I get it. But this one felt wrong. So we got a buddy here to help us, give us some inside the ropes perspective. One of my favorite people on the PGA Tour, caddy for Sung J M, former PGA Tour player himself, Mr. Willie Wilcox. Willie is joining us. There he is. What's up, Willie? How are you?
What up? Is that blurry? Anyways, yes, all is great. Just sitting in my passenger seat off the turnpike.
I am surprised you're not playing golf. I've never met someone who manages to play and walk more golf courses than you do. I feel like you play, even in the morning when you caddy for Sung Jae, you still manage to play in the afternoon.
Yeah, normally it depends on the daylight. And this time of year, it's a little harder. I went and played Apogee after our Friday round, which was really, really cool. But yeah, like the people I played with, they're like, "You got to be the biggest golf psycho out there." I was like, I would say that I am.
And that's
in the summer, when the days are longer, a little easier. But yeah, I still try to be crazy and play even when the days are short.
So from your perspective, I mean, I'm sure did you play that tournament? I'm sure you did back when you were playing on tour.
Yeah.
Why is it so?
Twice.
Sungjae won it at 6 under not that long ago.
Yeah.
He shot 4 under through 2 rounds and missed the cut this week. That can't only just be players getting better. Like, what's different about the course?
Well, let's see. So, like 6 was a real tough hole, and there used to be these 2 like hot bunkers on the right off the tee. Let's see, what else did they do? I think they played us up quite a bit. We'd be, holes that 30, 40, some maybe 16 yards up can be so big. So everything was just carrying. It was super, super pure. Around the greens, there was no rough. So like I said to Sungjae earlier in the week, I was like, short side does not exist. So, go at every single pin. And then when you get short-sided, you still have this really nice lie. So that overseed, the ball was sitting up because it was really healthy. I guess they had a nippy winter or something. So it made that stuff just perfect. But yeah, when there's no pin, when you're not getting penalized for short side, then it is a very freeing feeling for the best golfers. So, you game right at the pin, and it was no issues.
So Sungjae's coming off, I believe back-to-back missed cuts. How much of your job in these moments is playing like therapist?
I mean, him not being fluent in English. I mean, I try to just be a calm presence. I mean, he was actually in great spirits over the weekend, though. We practiced Saturday and Sunday for 3-4 hours. Well, Saturday was more like 5 or 6 hours, but yeah, I mean, he was remarkably cool. I was expecting him sometimes when he misses cuts, like earlier in the caddy player run, he would be really upset and not want to talk very much, and yeah, he just. He'd either hit it to 2 feet, or he's been having a lot of that awful S word. His wear pattern on his irons, his short irons, are closer to the heel, so he's got that little shanky.
You just said it.
So I know the S word, the dreaded S word, but I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, no, it's. But it's good. I mean, you guys are quite the pair. I saw Denny McCarthy was talking about, that if there was a player caddy tournament, do you think you guys would be the top seed? Like, who else would give you guys a run?
I mean, Derek and Denny are their dogs. Honestly, I don't know if I've ever beaten Derek. Granted, we've only played like 3 or 4 times. He's just a friggin' grinder. He always putts well. He can drive it a little squirrely. It's actually amazing how similar him and Denny's games are. Because Denny can get a little loose off the tee, but man, the score still adds up good. So when Derek's hitting it well off the tee, like, I legit can't beat him.
Yeah. We played together, you and I did, not too long ago. Did you like what you see?
Yeah,
my new Genghis move? I'm kind of back, huh?
Was it just like a hot start? Because it was so pure, you know what I mean? When you try like a new driver or putter, the first day out is like awesome. Has it continued?
I haven't played since.
Awesome.
I haven't played since. Some of us have a job where we don't work.
Never play again.
You've probably played 9 rounds since we played. I haven't played one yet, but I am playing on Friday with Chad, which is always a big round when you play with the boss. So I'm excited about that.
Nice. Yeah, that was just a hell of a day. It's one of those days where all the planets align. Everybody plays pretty decent. You get to play with good players. Danny Wax, just stripe show. But yeah, anyways, the fact that you were last in our group and won over means, we did, what a foursome.
It was a great day.
Awesome.
It was a great day. I'm looking forward to seeing you in Orlando. I'll be there later tonight.
Oh, nice.
All right. Talk to you soon, buddy.
Cool. Well, I don't.
I feel like I cut him off there. We still love you, Willie. You could still say goodbye.
I didn't know if it was that quick of an interview.
It's quick, baby. We're quick on this show. We move, baby. We move.
Nice.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. All right, see ya.
All right, we're going to move into a section we call the Knockaround, presented by Knockaround. Today I've got these are the Brooklines, just a classic silhouette. They look fantastic on my face, and they're great quality. You know, I've had sunglasses that are way more expensive than these, and the quality of the Knockarounds can go toe-to-toe with anyone. We've got a promo code. If you go to knockaround.com and use the promo code DanOnGolf20, you get 20% off your first order. They're a great price. They're an even greater price with 20% off. For this segment, we go around the world outside of the PGA Tour. And let's start with kind of a wild story out of the New Zealand Open. So I knew nothing about this until Sunday when the Fried Egg tweeted about it. So Ryan Peake won the New Zealand Open, which gets you into the Open Championship this summer at Royal Portrush. But it's the backstory that it just jumps off the page. You don't see this very often. At 21, Ryan Peake was both a promising up-and-coming golfer and a member of an outlawed motorcycle gang in Australia. And I will say, given his appearance, he looks the part.
That's a cool phrase, by the way.
What?
An outlawed motorcycle gang.
Yeah, or any motorcycle
gang. Not just
gangs.
a regular motorcycle gang.
He was outlawed. After being convicted of assault, so less cool, and spending 5 years in prison, he made his way back to golf and secured his Australasian Tour card this season. Today, he won the New Zealand Open to qualify for the Open Championship. He said, "Just changed my life. This is what I do. I want to be here and just play golf. The story is what it is, but I'm just out here playing golf." I feel like there's even more to this story than we know. I feel like I kind of want to dig in.
I think you should.
I haven't
go long.
I was going to say, I haven't written a long piece, like a long form, proper piece in a while. This might be the one to get me back. Today is the fifth major of the year. I'm talking obviously about the Seminole Pro-Am. It's played Monday after the Honda. Guys are already in the Jupiter, West Palm area, and half of them live there anyway. So it's just got a much stronger field than the Cognizant Classic. I'm just going to read some of the guys who are playing. Tiger, Rory, Morikawa, Justin Thomas, Nelly Korda, Ricky Fowler, Luke Clanton, Keegan Bradley, Matt Fitzpatrick, Adam Scott, Sungjae Im, Akshay Bhatia, Billy Horschel, Nick Dunlap, Cameron Young. The list goes on and on. What I'm most interested is how the pairings get made, because there is a drop off. If you look at the group that goes off 10 in the afternoon, you got some Corn Ferry guys. You've got some European Tour players. So the members who are in that, are they like the newest members? Are they the worst golfers?
It's either that or they're getting pushed down the list over the years as guys like Carl Phillips get into the field, and Nelly and Jess Gordon.
No, I'm saying the Seminole members. Like, how do they decide which members get the worst pairings? That's the more juicy situation.
I wonder if it's like an inside baseball thing, like there's like a card game or something inside the club that they do to determine
or like
that?
a season-long competition. Because obviously the guys like Jimmy Dunn are going to get a great pairing, but everyone who's a member at Seminole has accomplished something in their life.
I think there's a glaring foursome that I was going to
say, what would be the one that you most want to play with?
I hate to say that the Tiger group, because it's the most cliche to do, but I like Shane Battier in that group and Keegan. That's pretty.
Yeah, that'd
strong.
be really. Yeah, Tiger, Shane Battier, Keegan, and Ben Muscovich.
Yeah,
that sounds like a fun day.
Seth.
Speaking of elite courses, Pine Valley is hosting the Walker Cup in 2044. So we've seen some amazing courses kind of step out of the shadows and host Walker Cups. It's just a much easier ask than a U.S. Open. It's match play, so you don't have to worry about your course getting overpowered and guys shooting a million under par. There's less people on site, and there's also something very romantic about the amateur game. Notice how I said amateur there?
Yeah,
not amateur.
I prefer that pronunciation.
Well, I mean, we're going to talk about this later in the show with Chad. There's clearly a line of demarcation between amateur and amateur, and I think when you're talking about, golf and the romance of the amateur game, that's the one you use. The funny thing about 2044, a lot of the guys, there's going to be at least 2 or 3 guys who are playing in that Walker Cup who are not born yet. So a lot of you have been wanting a tee time at Pine Valley your whole life. Some people who aren't even born yet already have one.
Yeah, if you're just having a kid now, you want to get him in the golf.
Goals.
Start telling him about Pine Valley. Laurie
Cantor, this is interesting. So he lost in a playoff in South Africa on the DP World Tour, but he's now clinched a spot in the Players' Championship because he's now inside the top 50 in the world, and that makes him the first LIV player to play a LIV event and then come back and play a PGA Tour event. It's not just any event. He's playing in the flagship event. It's proof that it is possible. The rules here, he last played on LIV in February of 2023. I think it was actually 2024. But either way, you're suspended for 1 full year, I believe is the rule, after your last LIV event. So he's good to come back. So Laurie Cantor has done his time.
Is that all that it is, that the time expired, and so or did anything else happen?
No, I think just the time expired.
It's kind of flew under the radar. I feel like that's like something we've been waiting years for that crossover.
Yeah, but let me tell you something. The bigger guys, once this comes together, they're not going to want to wait a year, and they're not going to have to wait a year. On the LPGA, Lydia Ko won the HSBC Women's World Championship in Singapore, dominated. She won by 4. That's her 23rd win of her career, and this blew my mind. She's still 27 years old. Isn't that insane? Wow. Sometimes you look up a celebrity and you're like, how are they only 30? She's still 27. It's crazy how much she's accomplished in her career.
I was looking up the other day how, like, where does that number of wins put her against like PGA Tour guys? There's some big names that have way less.
Oh yeah, she's got more than Justin Thomas, more than Dustin Johnson.
Yep, Dustin Johnson's the one that
She's got less than Rory McIlroy, but she's got more than Jordan Spieth. Amazing career that keeps on going. Justin Suh won on the Korn Ferry Tour in Argentina. I feel bad, but every time Justin Suh's name comes up, he gets brought up with Colin and Victor and Matt Wolf because he did that introductory press conference. He had a good year last year, had to go back to the Korn Ferry Tour, got the victory. Again, still early in the season, so he's in really good shape to get back to the PGA Tour next year. In South Africa, in that DP World Tour event we talked about, Dale Whitnell had 2 holes in 1. Which you think it's a typo or something. We've got video of them both. They're rather grainy, but the DP World Tour did a really good job. The first one you can see more properly. 2 holes in 1 in the same round, taking dead aims, soft greens, trickle, 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 disappear. That's how I want my first hole in 1 to look, where you see it, you see the whole thing happen. And then I guess someone's out there with a phone. This is not clearly not. Again, he's like, again, woo! And then we also have an interview from Dale afterwards, and look how freaking casual he is about this whole thing.
Yeah, birdied the first and then hit a flush 7-iron on the second, and I didn't realise that it went in until down the bottom they sort of cheered, so that was lovely. And then obviously get another hole in 1 on the 12th, so it was, bizarre. I've never had one in tournament play. I had one in Paris National a few years ago in practice round, but these are my first ones in hole in 1, and to have 2 in 1 day is pretty special.
Pretty special, yeah, just pretty special. I'd be going crazy. I'd be wasted probably.
Dale is pretty aggressively forcing himself into the zeitgeist, I feel like, between the goggles and getting 2 holes.
So he is the same guy who's wearing the goggles, right?
But and I read that he did it for functional reasons, like keep the sun out of his eyes or the sand when he was playing in Qatar, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And he just stuck with it.
I think he should wear, like, proper snowboarding goggles.
Why not? It reminds me of like rappers, probably a decade ago got really into like wearing ski goggles as part of their fit.
Just do random shit. Dale did not win that tournament. He finished tied for 7th. The winner of that tournament wasn't Laurie Cantor either. He lost in a playoff. It was Dylan Nadeau, who is from South Africa. The tournament was shortened to 54 holes because of weather. They did a playoff to break the tie between him and Cantor, and Nadeau won the tournament. Our last item, we talked about this on the show very recently with Keegan Bradley himself about just how amazing Keegan's mustache is. Let's roll the clip. It's such a good mustache, it's hard to believe you didn't go to it earlier. Have you ever had it before, and is it here to stay?
I've never had it. I had a bad week at Pebble, so it was on the chopping block, and my family convinced me to keep it.
They like it.
They love it. If it wasn't for them, I would have cut it off by now.
My dad had a mustache for the first 20 years of my life or something, and then he shaved it. We couldn't look at him. It was like, it looks, if you take it off, it's going to look different.
I know, and if I have a really good week or I win or something, then I got to keep it forever, which I don't want.
He shaved it. He shaved it.
I can't believe he said it's what I don't want. Like, you don't want an excuse.
He doesn't like it. But look, I think he looks way better with the mustache. And I think this sends a message to Europe that our captain is, he's thinking about stuff right now.
Yeah, he's going full Teddy Roosevelt for this. I think that's important. I think he looks like the captain when he's wearing it. I like him either way.
Yeah.
Right? Love the pick. But so I shaved into a mustache today, and I'm going to hold on to this until Keegan grows his back.
So it's like a seesaw. Like, you have a mustache when he doesn't, and then if he gets his mustache back, you'll shave yours?
There needs to be, like, another strong mustache in the golf universe. I feel like I'm getting there, but Johnson Wagner can't carry this flag.
That's true.
Alone.
He needs some support. We're going to jump back into a little bit of a Cognizant Classic recap. Now that my bitching is over, we're going to recap the tournament properly because it was an action-packed week. We'll start with some highlights. So Jake Knapp carried a one-shot lead into the final round on Sunday, and he was cruising along. There he is. That's a winner's outfit. The black shirt. He was cruising along until this on the 11th from the fairway, front right pin, goes into the water, and he decides to play it from there. We're going to discuss this decision in detail. Goes right back in the water again, and at this point, you're too far gone. Like, you're committed to the bit.
No way.
You can hear that. No way. He's got a California accent. He's a no way guy. No way. Knocks it long past 2 putts. Yeah, triple bogey knocked him out of the tournament. Then it became a battle between Michael Kim and Ben Griffin and Joe Highsmith, and this was the shot, the birdie, I should say, that sealed the tournament. The bear trap draws one in there to about 20 feet, maybe even 15 feet, and he's got this to get to 19 under, give himself a cushion, and he canned it. Fantastic stuff from Joe Highsmith, allowed him to play the 18th, really just needing a par, a right-hand low putting grip claw. You don't see that very often because he is lefty. I was in the air when we usually do our winners interview, so my boy Ben Voskovich stepped up to the plate. We're going to watch this interview that Ben did, and then we're going to judge him after, so let's roll that interview.
We're good to go. Congratulations,
Sweet.
man.
Thank you so much. Feeling good, yeah. It's pretty surreal, so don't really know what to feel, but obviously I feel great. I mean, playing a round of golf like that always makes you feel pretty good, and then to get the win is just a huge bonus. But yeah, couldn't be more happy.
Has the life-changing element of winning a PGA Tour event sunk in yet? Like all the stuff that happens now because you are a winner?
I don't think so. I wouldn't say it's sunk in. I'm starting to become, I guess, aware of more things, like whatever the schedule changes and, the tournaments I'll be able to get invited to. And then I know kind of how it goes in the future when I've seen guys win and they get better crowds or whatever it is. But it's pretty sweet. I mean, for now, I'm just really excited to feel like I've played good golf again. I mean, it's really been a pretty, tough struggle the last probably 3 or 4 months. Going from playing really good this fall and then kind of just totally searching and feeling like, I remember, I think 2 events in, I was worried about going back to Q school, literally 2 events into the year. So I was pretty lost and worried about, the state of my game. But yeah, so it feels great. And obviously to get the win and get the exemptions and all the schedule stuff, I mean, it's pretty special, but yeah.
So coming out of Friday, you just make the cut on the number. What's your mentality? Are you thinking all right, 64, might get it done now? Or are you what are you thinking about? Are you I have a chance to do this still?
Yeah, I felt like I was fortunate on Saturday to with the way they did tee times, because a lot of the times if you make it on the number, you'll be last off 10, which is the worst thing that can happen out here because it's so hard as the day goes on. And fortunately, I was the 3rd or 4th group out that day. And I really I had a really bad warm up that day. I didn't have many expectations going to the course. I was just upset that I felt like I had no idea what I was doing with my game, but I was in a way it was good because it made me kind of focus and, make sure that I didn't slip at all on any shots, because I felt like I was hitting it right and left and, not putting good in the warm up, whatever. And then as the day went on, I made a bunch of putts, and it was just ridiculous how many putts I made, and I was able to scrape it around pretty well. And then, the course got a lot harder as the day went on. So I ended up moving way more up the leaderboard than I even would have expected. And, today going out there, it was great to be in that 4th or 5th to last group, whatever it was. And, wasn't honestly not really thinking about winning at all. I was just it's great to be in this position, but I'm, a 1 over par round away from finishing 40th and having it feel why'd you even make the cut? So it's let's just stay focused and, make sure that we execute these shots. And I felt just from the start of the day, I was in a really, really good place and, had a lot of clarity on what I was supposed to do and just trying to do on each shot and, put together a really nice round of golf. That's for sure. So
the chance to win isn't really hitting you until the front of or the beginning of the back 9.
Yeah. I mean, I would say I probably became a little more aware. I hit a shot close on hole 9. And then I birdied 10 and 11. And obviously at the time, I mean, I'm just really locked into the shots themselves. I'm genuinely not really thinking about the outcome at that point. I'm just we're getting numbers, trying to pick targets and execute shots. We're not really thinking what are the other guys doing? What's the score? We're just really into our own process. And then, come 15, 16, I mean, some people started saying some stuff in the crowd, and I kind of had an idea that I was probably in a pretty good spot, but still it was I felt like I did a pretty good job to just not go down that road and think oh man, I'm about to win on the PGA Tour or whatever. It's let's just keep doing our process and not mess up this great round that I have going. And then, if I was able to do that, I figured good things would happen regardless of what the outcome was. But of course it kind of worked out for the best.
Well, congrats, Joe. Thanks for joining us. And go smell the roses, man. Go soak it in. This is a really big moment, and I'm happy for you.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks so much.
You know, I remember you saying you're a sucker for a first-time win. So I think that smell the roses comment was apropos.
I was just thinking about it all day. Like, if a first-time winner wins and I get to talk to him, like, I'm going to make sure that he knows, like, that's the next move. Go smell the roses.
Ben, first-time win, Boscovich. I think you did a good job. I thought that was a solid A-. I'm not going to give you an A because, you know.
I skipped an important question.
What was the question?
Joe LaCava IV is his caddy.
Yeah, also it's the fourth. I didn't realize that. I thought it was Joe LaCava Jr. It's not.
A lot of Joe LaCavas.
There's a lot of Joe LaCavas. Jake Knapp shot the easiest, breeziest 59 that you'll ever see. Just so much style. When he's playing free and swinging the way he does, it's a sight to behold. He actually had an outside chance at an eagle putt for 58, had to settle for 59. Never thought I would see that at PGA National. Really never thought I'd see a 59 at PGA National. We've got some highlights here showing Jake, and it's just such a free-flowing move. And I think he's giving, you know, the Adam Scotts and the Louis Oosthuizens and the Rory McIlroys, he's giving them a run for their money as far as just pure aesthetic swing. The people, when you say, what's your favorite swing on the PGA Tour? You know, Jake Knapp is a pretty good answer. So, yeah, really, really impressive stuff. My boy Max Grazerman, really good guy. Needed an eagle on Friday on 18 to make the cut. So what did he do? He hit this 3-wood, found the green, trickled out to about 5 feet, and he made the eagle putt. And not only did he make the eagle putt, it kind of, you know, he got kind of cucked a little bit by Joe Highsmith, who won the tournament. But he finished T11, which, after making the cut on the number, is a great finish. I asked Max for an official statement. He said, that's what dogs do. Not sure if he was referencing our show. He spelled it D.A.W.G, but I think he was. And then he said, I was tired of Luke Clanton having his moment, so I made my own. Tremendous stuff.
I love that.
From Max Grazerman. We had Shane Lowry chipping in. I think this was on Thursday or Friday. And then doing the, you can see it was a hell of a chip in, too, like a flopper. And then does the Dr. Chipinski. That's the Minwoo Lee. They're actually playing LAGC in about an hour and a half. This is what the PGA Tour wants. Some TGL stuff that breaks into the PGA Tour competition. Him and Minwoo are teammates. Good stuff. Some team identities. Ricky Fowler. You don't see this very often. He got pissed off at somebody. And Ricky always has some of the bigger crowds. I think you can hear it here. So he misses a putt.
Of course you know. That's why you're in the stands.
He goes, of course you know that's why you're in the stands. Ricky Fowler has huge galleries every single week. You know how much of a dick you have to be for Ricky Fowler to call you out?
That's what I was thinking. You only pull that card, like, that's why you're in the stands, when you're fucking
once a year.
up.
Once a year.
Yeah.
If you do that more than once a year, then you're like the guy who calls out fans. So he must have been like, I don't know if that guy was following him or what. I'm going to ask him.
Maybe some other stuff was said.
I'm going to ask what was going on with that. He was in the mix on the weekend, but shot 72 on Sunday, which was like shooting 85 this week. So that dropped him to T18.
Why didn't you shoot 62? The course was so easy.
The guy shot 64 to win the tournament. It was obviously not. You're trying to say that it was like Bay Hill. Bay Hill's going to be really tough next week, which I'm actually really excited for. It better be. So Ricky was in the mix. Jordan Spieth was also in the mix. He finished tied for 9th, his second top 10 finish in his last 3 starts. I'm just saying, Augusta's just around the corner. He's starting to show some form. He won't, however, be in the field this week at Bay Hill, and he seemed a little salty about it. I think we have a picture of what he said here. Yeah. I'm bummed not to be there this week. It's been a great place for me. I really wish I was getting that start, but I needed to play better injured golf last year, I guess. Interest. There's a little
shade in that.
Little shade in that. A lot of chatter about Rafa Campos getting an invite into a signature event because he's got like the lowest odds in the field, whereas Jordan Spieth, Ricky Fowler didn't get it. I've said this in the past. If you're getting angry about sponsor exemptions, you probably just like to get angry. It's true. It's like, really? Our first live call-in, actually no, our second, is probably my second favorite person in the PGA Tour circus. My first is Willie Wilcox. My second is Sean Foley, legendary coach. Sean Foley, I believe, is joining us live on the line as we speak. Hello, Sean.
Daniel, how are you, my boy?
I'm very, very good. So Sean's resume doesn't need any sort of, it doesn't need me to go through it, but I will say he's coached amazing players. He's coached Tiger Woods and Justin Rose and Hunter Mahan. One of my all-time favorite swings, Sean O'Hare. I feel like that was a transformative swing on the PGA Tour. Now he's currently working with Michael Kim, who just finished tied for 6th, Eric Van Rooyen, who finished tied for 9th, and Ben On, who had a career year last year. So I want to start with Michael Kim. In 2020, he was the worst player on the PGA Tour, and that's not even me being a dick. I think he played 16 events. The only time he played the weekend was the old CJ Cup where there was no cut. When a player is so low on confidence like that, where do you even start?
Well, to me, as time has been out there, and you remember, Daniel, when you first came on tour, we had that great night at the place that I stayed at in
I'll never forget it.
In Point Vedra, and I would say that, amongst working with the top 10 players in the world and number ones and men and women's golf and all that, I've kind of felt like, my spot now is I want to really challenge myself. Hold on, man. I can't figure out what's going on. Here we go.
You're good.
I've really enjoyed taking people who've kind of lost their game. The first one was Danny Willett, and starting with Danny, I don't think you could ever say Tiger, because Tiger should always be number one when he's healthy. But Lydia Ko and just really taking these players. I started with Ben and Eric, kind of as they were losing their card on the PGA Tour and going to Korn Ferry. So the one thing about Michael, he's a class act, right? Like as a human being, he's a great guy. And I think as time goes on, you have to change the reason you do things. The why changes. And for me, all the travel, the sacrifice, being away from the family, you just have to make sure that the people you're with are worth that sacrifice. And all my guys right now are very, very capable players. Their best years are ahead of them. But more than anything, if anything ever happened to me, I would have no problem with them mentoring my sons. And that's a massive thing to be able to say about a human being. And, so when Michael came to me, I think he had missed like 44 cuts in a row or some crazy number like that. But, when you're going to invest in somebody, you got to put a lot of time into them. And when they're outside the top 1,000 in the world, from a business standpoint, it's probably not going to be applicable for a while, especially with them going to Korn Ferry. So the fact that Michael was the number one ranked amateur in the world when he turned pro was something that I looked deeply at, because whatever allowed him to be that is still within him. If you look at somebody who's 400 pounds, they still have a six pack. You just can't see it. So it's not really about adding to anything. It's about taking away from. And, Michael ran down the road of, what happens is players get, they get struggling so bad that they look for answers anywhere. And, to the point that if the valet guy said, hey, I thought your backswing, I think it's too long, they might actually go to the next range and shorten their backswing, right? Short backswings aren't a good idea for all of your listeners out there. And so we just started, and Michael had this shot that kind of started way right and then just kind of sliced out of bounds. And he would have said that he had driver yips, but driving the ball is a gross motor skill. So when we're dealing with like focal dystonia and yips, you're dealing with much more from a nervous system standpoint. You're dealing with fine motor skills. So there is really no such thing as a driver yip. It's just tends to be an open club face with a really poor way of generating force. And so the first thing I did, and it's kind of being outside the box the last few years, my passion has kind of become neuroscience and learning everything I can about the brain. And I probably don't even know 1% of it. But what we did first was to get rid of the pattern of this block slice. Was I had him for 3 months, and I'll give him so much credit because I don't know how many people would have done this. But I just had him sit on the range and literally hit massive hooks for 3 months, just hitting snap hooks. Snap hook after snap hook after snap hook, to kind of get that out of his system within his golf swing. Now, the thing is, none of this stuff starts mentally, right? It starts technically, and then we look down at the driver as we look over it. One of the tricky things about golf is the amount of information. So when someone's telling you to visualize the shot, it's kind of naive and a little cavalier, because as we're sitting there visualizing the shot, our brain is thinking back to a previous time where optically we bring in the information through our eyes. And so our brain is just going through this Rolodex of previous experiences and previous constructs. And so when it gets to that point where the only memory you have is hitting this thing out of bounds, they can barely take the club back. And so the tricky part about the brain is that, it's this omnipotent, amazing thing, but it's designed so that we survive. It's not designed so that we thrive, right? That's consciousness. That becomes a whole different element. So We got our back to the Corn Ferry Tours. I said to him yesterday, I said, hey, bro, go for it today because this is not really pressure. Pressure is being 25th in the Corn Ferry money list with 1 round to go and shooting 65. Pressure is being on the precipice of losing our card last year and being amazing in the fall season. So this is not pressure. So there's levels to it. So one, you get them back to where they're competent, but they're not confident yet. But competence always precedes confidence in life. Anyone telling you need to be more confident doesn't really know what they're talking about. It's pretty easy to be confident when you know that every time you hit it, you find it. So the difference is that, we still have the anxiety and the trauma on the tee because this brain is very deeply remembered. I mean, all of us on this phone call are old enough to remember where we were on 9/11. No one doesn't remember where they were because what happens to memories is the more emotionally we are when we react to it, the deeper we reinforce it. And so when people go, well, these guys are just playing golf, Dan. Yes, it's not Afghanistan. Yes, it's not the Middle East. Yes, it's not the Ukraine. But if your identity has been connected to your score since you're 12 years old, they go through fight or flight at those levels. And yes, should they have more perspective? Of course, but perspective only comes from experience. So if your whole experience was basically playing golf, then I just think using the word perspective, just saying it's just golf, it's not just golf to them, right? It's everything to them. And, you go through those levels to where, he's getting to the point now where I can see like under pressure where it matters, he's swinging even harder. Mm-hmm. And, the thing is, when you have to face bullies, you realize that the bullies most often just govern through fear, right? So you got to step up and challenge it. And remembering that fear from, the greatest acronym in the world is false evidence that appears real. So we have this incredible brain that spends most of the day being afraid of things and detecting threats. So to really get to where, we can manifest amazing greatness out of ourselves, that takes courage. And the word kura in Greek means wholehearted. So to be courageous on the golf course means to play from your heart. And I think I have to remind these guys a lot, and I've had to do it to myself in my own career. I ask them all the time, like, why play golf, man? Like, why did you even start? I just loved golf. And I'm like, okay, so why can't we keep it like that? Why does it have to be about world ranking points and being on a TGL team and all these things that are outside of us that none of them will we think about in the last week of our life? People will think in the last week of their life how much they love the game, but they're probably not going to remember when they 3-putted the 18th hole to lose a tournament. I just don't think that that's going to be the reflection. So these are the phases that you go through. You go from being terrible to getting better but still feeling terrible to getting better than that and starting to feel like you can do it, and then getting to the point where Michael has finished 2nd, 12th, and 6th in his last 4 events. And I'm the only one not surprised because I've been seeing this high level from this guy for a couple of years now. But, telling someone to believe in themselves, it's once again, it's kind of naive because you have to have a reason to believe in yourself. You have to see it when it all matters. You have to be able to do it because that's how you brandish. That's how you start to cut the lizard's tail of fear and ego, is knowing that you can do it. And so Michael said something funny to me. Eric Van Rooyen was having some issues with his full swing. So I went to Vedanta with him, and Eric is like, it doesn't get better. Eric's a lovely guy, and he's really, really gifted. And so I'm going to sit on the couch all week while they're there thinking about them. So I figured, why not just give myself a chance and go and see them? And Michael showed up, and I was kind of surprised. I said, well, bro, if we get into Bay Hill, this could be like 6 in a row or something. And he said, there's a saying in Korean that when the tide is in your favor, paddle like hell. So yesterday was going to be difficult one way or another because, this guy's just played golf for 28 days in a row. I know that our listeners probably hear that and go, that would be amazing. But that could definitely lead to, to putting a weighted vest on and jumping in the ocean, too. So sounds great, but it's a lot. The thing about golf that makes it actually a sport, if you ask me, is that the levels of neural fatigue are so much higher than any other sport because you've got 28 days of working out, getting treated, learning the golf course, making hopefully 68 decisions a day. So it's quite taxing. And And so I'm thrilled for Michael, and Michael has a big handle on Twitter. He does a lot of great things like that, letting people know what it's like to be a tour pro. And look, man, if these players are vulnerable, then I can work with them, right? If they won't look in the mirror and admit the truth to themselves, then there's nowhere to go from there, because life is an inside job, and we are always nonstop all day being Steven Spielberg through the lens of our eyes. And so understanding from a bad mood and a good mood, what we end up creating outside of us is going to be entirely different, but there really is nothing else going on out there except for what we perceive. So kind of just taking the guys through learning how to hit it better. Michael is, I think we're like 14th or 15th in strokes gained tee to green now. We've picked up probably 40 yards off the tee. And I love watching him walk around. Like, I've always imagined what he used to look like in college, because Max Homa and a lot of people told me that he was impossible to beat. And so, that was kind of, for me, that was the belief that I knew that was still there. And we just need to keep climbing and keep climbing. And I think lately we've been climbing Everest for a while, but we just got some good weather and some good snow conditions. I expect it to become icy and freezing as fuck very soon.
That's the best. That's the best answer we've had in dog history, right there. I feel like we got Korean, we got Greek, we got Latin, we got neuroscience.
Oh yeah, you know what it is.
I know what it is. I know when I ask Sean a question, I gotta like, I have to do it with a hard end at the end, because otherwise I know we're just going to be sitting there for a while. I want to move on to talking about Ben On. I want to play a clip, The Weapon, which you told me was his nickname, my favorite nickname on the PGA Tour. I want to play this was on the range. We put this on our show, or actually on our vlog, on from Scottsdale, and you were explaining how much of your job is this.
My favorite, dude, is when they're like, dude, you've never told me this before, and I'm like, just only every day for 3 years.
they're like his children. Yeah, it's like with you, like it's like they're your children. You know what I mean?
At least nephews.
Yes.
Yeah, nephews.
How much of your job would you say, and now it's different now, like when you first came out, I feel like you were known for like the technical side. You were really an early adapter of like TrackMan and looking at all these stats. How much of what you do now is sort of that side of golf, is almost being like part life coach almost?
Yeah, it's both, right? I'm 50 years old now. I'm working. These guys average 31 years of age. I mean, if a 31-year-old Sean Foley came in the kitchen right now and sat down and said, "Did you want to talk to me?" I have a shitload to say to this kid. So, look, human being, regardless of how much they're saying we're divided, human beings are the same, bro. The only difference is how we spice our chicken. And I could argue, like from a physics standpoint, that we're not even separate. So all this ridiculous stuff about left and right and all these horizontal structures. Life is based on vertical structures, dude. So it's not really based on any of that. It's based on up and down. And I think that, in golf, you can fail every 15 minutes. And I think the key to being successful in life is really becoming an expert at failure. And, how do you fail? How do you fail well? Failure to me is like wisdom in disguise, right? It's just giving us all the clues, and we have to look into it. And so with the players, I just think that they create this defense mechanism that's probably fairly natural, to where I will tell them something that I've told them for 2 years, and they'll say something like, "Yeah, that's kind of interesting." And I giggle thinking, well, that's all I've ever talked about. So I think sometimes it's just too hard to look into the mirror every 15 minutes. So I fully accept, I expect it, and I feel like I understand their species quite well.
Yeah. I want to ask you about your time working with Tiger Woods. We're going to show a slow-mo of his swing with Hank Haney and then his swing with you. I think we have this loaded up, control room. Yeah, here it is. Quite different. What were your goals? And before I let you kind of run free here, you guys had a tremendous success. I think because he didn't win a major, people overlook he won 8 times in a 2-year period. He got back to number 1 in the world. Are you proud of your work? If you could do it differently, what would you do? And what were your goals with his swing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really look back. It's looking ahead normally, brings anxiety, and looking back normally brings sadness. So it's not something I really pay attention to. I can definitely admit to myself that at that time, I was doing my best from my own level of understanding. I stole that from Nelson Mandela, by the way. So yeah, I mean, I was a young man, and I thought I there's levels, right? When you get to the point that you know more than you've ever known, you realize you don't know anything. And at that point, I was kind of drinking my own Kool-Aid, thinking that I had the fix for every single golfer on the planet. So there was a level of arrogance there at that time. But I would say that arrogance was necessary for a kid from Canada who had dreams of coaching on the PGA Tour. There wasn't anybody that I wouldn't tell who walked by me what I was going to do in my career. And I think that I needed to believe that at first. And then I had really quick success with Stephen Ames and Sean O'Hare and Justin Rose and Hunter Mahan. And I just thought, this is going to be a piece of cake. Which is funny to look back now because I've always been so holistic and I've always been so much into that part of us that, to not realize that I was working with a guy who was just ridiculed in front of the world. I mean, my friend down the street's getting a divorce, and that's hard enough when no one in the world knows about it, bringing in that fact. So I think that Tiger showed us really how human he was during that time. Did I wish I knew more? Would I go about it any different? Yeah, of course, right? Like if the Germans didn't attack the Russians in the winter, we'd be speaking German, but we're not. So that's it, right?
I wouldn't be here.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. That's a very good point. Look, the guy was a total pro. I love him to death. What an unbelievable thing to be able to say that you did. I think you look back and say, I probably wish I would have done this or I would have done that. But I would have done that if I knew it at the time. I probably would have spent a hell of a lot more time working on the human than on the player. I kind of giggle sometimes thinking that I even discussed his golf game with him. But from what the mistakes that I felt that I made during that time, I was able to, when I talk about being an expert in failure, I do it all the time, So it's when I got with Lydia Ko, who my other nickname for Lydia is Baby Goat. And she's spectacular, man. It's hard to be better at golf than that girl. She's just out of this world. And so when we started, Lydia was 55th in the world. And I thought to myself, okay, if you could do it all again, what would you do? And basically I would just have asked better questions and then force the athlete to come up with their own answer. And so I did a very good job with Lydia on, not teaching her my preference or what I thought was important in the swing or this or that. It just kind of, every day I'd get with her, she'd have some questions, I'd answer them. And if I couldn't, I'd find an answer. And then about 9 months later, I asked her, do you have any questions left? And she said no. And she flew to Hawaii and won by 8 strokes. So look, positivity, negativity, that's all just labels and noise, dude. There is nothing in the world that is more, that's more important than purpose and clarity. I mean, if you have those two things there, you're really cooking with oil.
Amazing. Well, I could talk to this guy for hours. I have before. I will again. Thank you so much for joining us, Sean.
We have an ocean view this week. We're here in Orlando this week. And the thing about golf, dude, is like you got to always get these players and people listening to understand that Michael Kim shot like 15 over at Torrey Pines the first time it was there this year, and then showed up to Phoenix. And if you had told me a Tuesday at Phoenix that we would play back-to-back signature events and all that, I would have been not surprised because I know what he can do. But golf is a game just like life that, if you find the right elements and you're working on the right things, there's so much time for redemption. And I think that's the beauty of it all.
It's beautiful. I love that, Sean. I'll see you later this week.
Okay, guys. All the best. Good to see you.
Talk to you soon. Wow. That guy is just...
Does he have a podcast?
I want to write his book.
Yeah.
Does
he have a book? He hasn't written a book
I don't
yet?
know. It'd probably be 700 pages.
I'll listen all day. That's like when I have like a 7-hour drive sometime, I just will listen to Sean Foley talk for 7 straight hours.
Yeah, he can talk. Wow. Tough act to follow. Speaking of Tiger Woods. So last week we talked on this show about Tiger Woods vis-a-vis Sam Snead's record of 82 PGA Tour wins. Let's roll that clip from last week. It gets to a question of what's more important. Obviously, he'd want to break Jack's record, but if he could break Sam Snead's record or tie it versus getting close to Jack, which one would be more important? I do think that now, because he's not going to break Jack's record, the Sam Snead one is like tantalizingly close, and it would be just brutal if he finishes with 82, which is, I'm not saying that Tiger's done and dusted, but the most likely outcome is that he ends with 82.
Right. Well, Tiger never mentioned Sam Snead's record for his first 20 years. And then, as you say, in reality set in, he's not going to summit Mount Nicholas as like, okay, oh no, the Snead record's awesome. I want that one.
So we posted that clip, and a lot of people responded being like, we gotta look at Sam Snead's record because there's some fishy stuff going on here. My buddy Alex Myers wrote an article. This was a couple years ago, saying it's basically that the record is the biggest joke in sports. I think we have that article that we can pull up. Or he did say, yeah, using the Sam Snead criteria for wins, Tiger Woods actually has 95 tour titles. We'll explain. I wanted to bring on Alex. Alex is a good buddy of mine. Alex Myers from Golf Digest joining us live on the line. Talk to me, Alex. There he is.
Tough act to follow, like you said with Sean Foley. Tough act.
That's a tough act to follow, Myers. So do you just like, sullying the legacy of legends of the game? Is that kind of something you're into?
I really don't. I know people think I'm a hater. And I know that, talking about this historic record makes me feel like I'm coming after Sam Snead. But I'm not J.J. Redick. I'm not saying he was playing against plumbers and firemen, although some of these tournaments he might have been. But no, it's really more about giving more credit to Tiger than taking away credit from the great Sam Snead.
Okay, but there are some tournaments that he played in that, let's say, aren't, a full field of the best players in the world. So run me through some of the tournaments that he was credited for.
Exactly. So you told me to come with some receipts, and I did. I came with some actual CBS. It's actually one CBS receipt that I cut up into about 10 spots.
You only need one.
But, yeah, so let's start with the 1936 West Virginia Pro Closed. I've never heard of a closed event. I've heard of open event. This was basically Sam playing against local club pros. It was a 36-hole event. He won by 16 shots. This goes
PGA Tour win.
That's his first PGA Tour win he gets credited for. And the reason being is that it held like a big spot in his heart or something. So they gave him credit for that. That one's ridiculous, obviously. 1937, the Crosby Pro-Am, which obviously today is AT&T.
Yeah.
This event was only 18 holes that year, the inaugural. They gave him credit for it. He gets to keep it. 18 holes. The tour now, you have to have at least 54 holes for it to count. Adam Scott won the Nissan Open in 2005 at 36 holes. Doesn't count for his official record. Sam Snead, 18-hole win counts. The reason, they said because it was the inaugural event, it held extra historical significance. So they let him keep that one. All right, let's move along. Another receipt here. 1946 World Championship of Golf.
So good.
This is a 36-hole event against 3 other players, which when we get into...
They have that. Didn't they used to have that, the Grand Slam of Golf?
Exactly. I was going to say it's going to sound a lot like when we talk about Tiger's Grand Slam of Golf. Anyway, this one counts as well for Sam. And then the last one I want to mention is the 1950 Bing Crosby Pro-Am. This time they actually did play 54 holes, but there was a 4-way tie. And because they couldn't play the next day because some guys had to travel, they just declared all 4 winners. All 4 win.
Four guys won that tournament?
What?
4 guys won that tournament.
4 guys won the tournament. He said, you get a win, you get a win, you get a win, you get a win. I mean, total joke, right? So those are some of them. Overall, I just want to say, again, I don't want to kill the guy. I mean, it's Sam Snead. He's one of the greats. Maybe he's one of the top 5 players of all time, but he did have 5 wins against fields of 16 or fewer people, and he had 5 team wins, which again, now is kind of like accepted now with the Zurich Classic, I guess, but for decades and decades, that just didn't count as a team win. So anyway, those are kind of the big ones. But let's talk. I mean, I know you.
Yeah. So Tiger. Yeah. So then, what are some of the ones that he should be? I mean, 90. If you have 95, I don't know if this was written after he won his 82nd. Is it still 95? And what are some of the ones he doesn't have credit for that he should?
Great question. I had to reread my own story. Yeah, I wrote that after he won the Masters because when he in 2019, obviously that got him to 81, and all of a sudden magically the tour came up with this chasing 82 thing because it's a lot sexier if a guy's chasing a record than if he already has the record by a lot. But if you want to apply what I called the Sam Snead criteria to Tiger's record, which again, that's what I want to do. I don't want to take away from Sam. I just want to give Tiger what he is due. You would actually give Tiger an additional 14 victories, which now that he has 82, the 82nd officially was that Zozo championship win in 2019. He would be up to 96. Where do I get 14 from? Well, again, I mentioned the Grand Slam of golf. People might scoff at that, but again, he played against 3 other guys like Snead did in the World Championship of Golf. It was a 36-hole event like Snead did the World Championship of Golf. And unlike the Snead wins, Tiger had to win a freaking major championship to get into those fields that year. So, you might want to say, oh, it's a closed shop. There was only 4 guys. Yeah, he had to win a major to get in. And then he won that event 7 times. So that's 7 wins right there. Dan, then there's Tiger's event at the end of the year. I think it started as the Target. Now it's the Hero World Challenge. The 16-person field, that rings a bell with Sam Snead, right? Well, the Hero, basically the same type of thing, 16. I think it's up to 20 guys now. When John Rahm won a couple years ago, there were 16 of the top 20 in the world playing. So this is not just a small field, but it's an elite field. Tiger has won that event 5 times. So that gets you 7 Grand Slams of golf plus 5, that's 12. And then I mentioned the team golf aspect, the World Cup of golf. Tiger won in 99 with his buddy Mark O'Meara, and he won in 2000 with David Duval. In 2001, he actually hit what he calls the greatest shot.
Yeah, that chip in, right? That chip in when he needed it. Yeah.
Exactly, to get them into a playoff. They lost, but he did win the year before with Duval and the year before that. So that's 2 very elite team wins. I mean, you talk about a team with Tiger and Duval. They were, so this was an elite team event. No offense to the Zurich Classic, probably better field than that. Those do not count towards Tiger's record. So if you add those 14, that quickly gets you up to 96 wins for Tiger. If I may say one more thing, Dan, this happened back in the 80s. Dean Beeman was the commissioner. There was some record keeping they wanted to shape up, basically, especially with the PGA Tour broke away from the PGA America in 1968. That's why some of these records are a little tough to nail down. And anyway, he put together a 9-person panel. And on the Tuesday of the 1987 Masters, they sat in a room for a few hours. And they basically, it wasn't just for Snead, but they wanted to determine everyone's win total. They took away a bunch of wins from Snead. I think they took away 7 wins. And Snead was always pissed about that till the day he died. He had a lawyer friend, Jack Vardaman, who he had write a letter to Tim Fincham when Tim Fincham became the commissioner, basically begging for him to get credit for these wins back. They didn't do it for him. But anyway, I want a long way of saying they did look into this. They kind of determined this. I suspect at some point, Jay Monahan or whoever is the commissioner down the line puts together a similar panel of historians or whatever. I would love to be on that panel because I would love to give Tiger Woods credit for these wins and have him be the rightful owner of the PGA Tour record for most wins ever.
Well, yeah, especially now that he's probably not going to get 83 or the odds are against it. It feels like that's what's going to happen. I wanted to highlight one thing about Sam Snead. So he shot a 59. I think we have a picture of him with like an arrow toward 59. 1960 at the Greenbrier. This was not an official event. They found a way. They gave every other tournament with 4 players and 2 grandmothers was an official event, but this one was not. Thank you so much for joining us, Alex. That was tremendous. I really enjoyed that.
Got it.
We'll talk to you soon.
Dan.
So I'm excited about this next thing. Let's get out of yeah, there you go. Goodbye, Myers. Sugarloaf Social Club. So I've been wearing them a lot. We've got some hats back there, some sweatshirts. We got a head cover over there. One of my favorites. And everything they make is just cool stuff. Just good quality, really fun items. They've got you covered head to toe. Literally, they sell hats and socks. And they're more than an apparel brand. They've got head covers, grips, anything else you could think of. It's like a bat signal for a golf nerd. If you're wearing Sugarloaf Social Club, you know it's a safe space for the golf sicko in your life. High quality, fresh stuff. The story of the brand and how it started is just a friends group chat called Sugarloaf Social Club. And now they were just making items for their crew to now just an awesome golf brand. It's such a fun and unique story. And they almost never discount their stuff, like hardly ever. And yes, some stuff is probably sold out, but they're letting us give you 10% off on your first order made this week. So everyone who's been asking me for free stuff from Sugarloaf Social Club, go get it. It's 10% off. Just use code DANONGOLF at checkout. Exclusions apply. 10% off on your first order of Sugarloaf Social Club if you use the code DanOnGolf. Check them out, sugarloafsocialclub.com. This is Sugarloaf. This is Sugarloaf. Ben's got the socks on. We love Sugarloaf. Our next interview, this is a good one. So Maverick McNealy, he's been playing awesome golf this year. Really started last year. He won in the fall. He's up to number 12 in the world. He's a great kid. He's an interesting kid. Stanford, likes to fly himself. I think he tied Tiger's record at Stanford with 11 wins. And there's so much talk about his dad and him growing up with money. I was following him as he was trying to win Torrey Pines, and a lot of people were chanting daddy's money at him, which I thought was gross. So we discussed that. We discussed him flying and a lot of other stuff. So here's Maverick McNealy.
I wanted to ask you about flying. So you've started flying yourself. Tell me about when you got your pilot's license. What went into that, and what do you like about it?
So I got my pilot's license initially in early 2023. I loved airplanes when I was a kid. We had two pets growing up, named Airplane and Propeller, when I was like 3 years old. I just loved airplanes. And then kind of got obsessed with ice hockey and golf, and those became my two loves, and kind of forgot about airplanes for 20 years of my life. And then I was paired with George McNeil in the, I think, second or third round of the 3M Open in 2022. And he's one of the coolest players to ever play the PGA Tour, flew himself to tournaments for 20 years, and I call him Uncle George because our last names are close enough. But I kind of started peppering with questions about flying, and it sounded really, really cool, like something I'd love. I took my first, so I did my entire online course for the Cirrus aircraft so I could take my first discovery flight when I got home, and immediately loved it. It was, a lot like golf in that you mentally prepare, there's routines, but more than anything, it was something I was completely focused on. I had no room for anything else in my mind. And I finally ended up buying my first single-engine prop plane, this little Cirrus SR-22, in the fall. Flew it home from Omaha with an instructor. It took 9.5 hours to get from Omaha back to Vegas. We had
is that just because the plane is slow, or you had to go around, or?
We had to go around. We had a headwind, and the plane's cruises just under 200 miles an hour, and it's got about a 800-mile range. But at that point, the limiting factor is your bladder. But more than anything, it's just fun to go around the southeast, and I was able to fly Phoenix to San Diego in just over 2 hours. Can't really carry a ton of baggage. It's not really a solution to fly to all tournaments, but maybe at some point down the road, win a signature event or two and can upgrade to that Vision Jet. That's like my dream plane, and I want to take my commercial rating at some point this fall when I've got enough hours. But it's something that mentally engages and challenges me a ton. That's not golf, and I just absolutely love it. I've got the bug, and when I proposed to Maya, I rented a plane and flew us up to Tahoe and proposed to her there, and she thought I was taking all these pictures because it was the first time she was in the plane alone with me. But it was a special day, so I absolutely love it, and hopefully, I guess people say, well, I would never get in a plane with you. That's not safe. It's like, well, I'm maybe not as experienced of a pilot, but I never fly outside my limitations, and I know my limitations. Limitations are good weather. When I've been flying a lot recently, and if not, I take an instructor and make it a fun and educational trip with minimal stress, which is what I did going to Torrey. So, it's a lot of fun.
Last question. You got the Team USA over your right shoulder. You're in a really good position. It's a Ryder Cup year. How important is it to be at Bethpage, and is it something that you're trying? I know what you're going to say, because you're going to say the process is more important, and you let the results take care of themselves. Is that, can you really have that mindset with something that a goal that big on the horizon?
Definitely. It's very, very motivating. My goal isn't to be at Bethpage. My goal is to win points at Bethpage. And
hey, love that.
I don't want to show up and put up a donut. So if I'm the right guy for the job, I will be so excited to be there. I just want to be a problem for those guys. I just want to annoy people with my putter. That's my MO. And when I'm playing good, I'm always in every hole because I feel like I can make any putt. And it's hugely motivating for me. I'm going to work extremely hard this year. And if I'm the right guy for the job, I'll be there. And I'm going to try and make life miserable for those guys.
I was following you. at the Genesis as you were making your run, and there were quite a few people who were chanting "Daddy's money" at you, which was gross. I thought it was disgusting. And obviously, the story about you and your dad is like super well told. We don't need to get into that. Also, you can't blame a guy for like where he's born. Like that's not something that you chose. Anyway, anyone with a brain, I think, realizes how moronic that chant is. My question for you is, did it still get to you, or are you able to now, because you've probably been dealing with it for a while, were you able to just kind of put it aside?
It's nothing new. I was called, rich kid in third grade, and I was like, really? What does that mean? Like, it's how do I put this? My parents told us growing up that we had a lot of opportunities, and we had wonderful, wonderful opportunities given to us, but my parents said that you're going to have to be nicer, treat people better, work harder, and, all of that, because there will be some people that want to play that card and say that you are where you are because of the opportunities you were given in your background growing up, which I'm unbelievably grateful for. I had every opportunity in the world, but that's also part of the reason I gravitated towards professional golf, because the golf.
Right, like you chose a career. I got to jump in here and just tell people how stupid they are for chanting. You chose like the ultimate meritocratic career. You know what I mean? Like, if you've got a famous last name, you might get a couple like invites. That's not how you got your tour card. That's not that's not what happened. You didn't skip any steps.
No, it didn't bother me, because I think I like to think if you take the time to get to know me, that's not me. And, a couple people that have a couple alcoholic beverages like to, make a rise and say something funny for their friends. But I think the thing that was a little disappointing was the fact that it was said in a way that was trying to detract from one of the coolest things I've done in my career, which had absolutely nothing to do with my background, which was be 9 under through 13 at Torrey and out of nowhere have a chance to win that golf tournament, which was one of the most fun, days for me and special for me and Scout. And just really a lesson in that no expectations type of golf. It's nothing new. It's probably not going to go away either. And I'm sure it's going to become a bigger thing as I play better and play better golf. But I also think that a lot of the things that you read on the internet are just completely false and not true. And I posted that video on Instagram, flying myself to my first tournament, and people were like, wow, must be nice to have a dad. But I actually paid for that airplane myself. I paid for my house, everything I've done in my life was stuff that I've earned through my professional golf career. And I guess the best way to explain this is the way our family works is I stayed amateur between the end of my senior year all the way through Q school in 2017 because I had the coolest amateur summer of all time. I played the Palmer Cup, played the Walker Cup, played the U.S. Open and the Open Championship as an amateur. I played John Deere Classic on a sponsor invite. I played a Barracuda on a sponsor invite. I played the Transmiss at Olympic Club. It was the most fun summer, I think, of anyone in the golf world ever. And my parents said, you have 3 months of room and board, and then you're on your own. So they paid for my travel expenses, my caddy expenses, everything that summer. And then the moment I turned pro and got my first signing bonus from Callaway and KPMG, I paid them back for those travel expenses. So that was the message. And then the other message they gave me was my pro debut in Napa. I had a dinner with my full team in the clubhouse, and mom and dad were there. It was probably 8 or 9 of my team members, great dinner to kick off my professional career and get everyone together. And then, right after dessert came,
they stuck you with the bill.
Yeah, mom and dad stood up and said, all right, well, thanks for dinner, Mav. That was wonderful. We'll see you tomorrow. And I'm like, cool.
This is different.
I'm on my own. Here we go. So, yeah, mom and dad are amazing, wonderful people, support me so much. They're out watching almost every tournament. And I'm so fortunate to be able to have the opportunity to do what I do. But I love that about golf. The golf ball just doesn't care who you are. And more than that, I like to think that I don't act in that way. And I take a lot of pride in that. And I want to treat the people who take care of me really, really well.
Yeah, good interview. I like that kid a lot.
Good head on his shoulders.
Good head on his shoulders, and also like those are not questions that you're gonna be asked at a PGA Tour press conference. So it was good to get to talk to him in that setting. Someone who I also love speaking to is Alan Shipnuck. He's leading the. Actually, Rick Gehman's been on every episode, but Alan's now 3 for 4. So we're gonna do what we did last week, which is take your guys' questions. Let's bring in Alan live on the line. You told me you're playing sick. How are we sounding?
I don't know. You tell me. Not great, but profile and courage. I'm here. So.
I think you sound totally normal. You already have like a scratchy voice to begin with.
Okay, cool. Late night DJ vibe, whatever. I'll take it.
Yeah, it's good stuff. All right, so let's bring up the first one. We'll get right into it. Does the USGA and the R&A need to re-examine the putting rule? I'm going to start with this one. I say yes. When they made the rule to ban on anchoring, arm lock wasn't really a thing. Yeah, there's the question from Christian Wright. Arm lock wasn't really a thing. I just think like the arm lock is not the spirit of the rule. It's still, yeah, the tip of it's not anchored, but it's still anchored up your arm.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would like to see a maximum putter length, just like we have a maximum driver length, and get rid of the broomsticks, get rid of the bellies, call it 36 inches, maybe 37, whatever the number is. But I want people to putt the way, Arnie Palmer did and Jack Nicklaus. Like there's so much trickery now, and people are using centrifugal force and anchoring but not anchoring, and yeah, arm locks, all this stuff. Like it just doesn't look right. It doesn't feel right. I don't think I'm like an old fuddy-duddy, but in this case, I would like putting just to be putting, and maybe that's unfair to guys who have gamed the system somehow and they've found a way to get the ball in the hole, but. There's it's an entertainment product. Like there's an aesthetic appeal to this, and Adam Scott with a broomstick, not sexy. It's just like it just doesn't look right, and I think that it'd be okay if the ruling body stepped in. They've done a lot with drivers. Why not get into putting? That's an important part of the game. They've just kind of let it all go, but a little more oversight would be welcome.
Yeah, I completely agree. We're on the same page there. Okay, next question. List your top 5 courses currently on the PGA Tour schedule that you would like to play. I'm going to ask you this one, Alan, because I feel like you've probably played them all.
Well, I'm always going to say Pebble Beach was my number one. I was a cart boy there for 3 summers. It's where I really fell in love with golf. I live 5 minutes away. It's a special place. Riviera, which I've only played twice, and it's been a long time. So I'm waiting for you to invite me back, Dan.
I'm not a member. You keep on talking like I'm a member, but I am not a member.
I know, but you're Mr. LA. It can't be that hard. It's a phone call for you.
I know someone.
I know you do. Plantation course to me is as much fun as you can have on a golf course. There's so much geometry, so many angles. That's just an absolute blast. I played it once, but I'd like to play it again. Well, I was going to say Cypress Point. That's on the Walker Cup road. And they just announced Pine Valley, but it's funny how the Walker Cup outshines the PGA Tour now. I've never played Colonial. That appeals to me. It doesn't suit my game. It's so tight, but it's a very aesthetically pleasing course. It drips history, and it's just kind of something like kind of macho about Colonial. I think you step on that first tee, you're like, okay, I got to play good golf, and the members are going to judge me. It's kind of like being at Muirfield in Scotland. You feel there's a feeling in the air there that you don't want to let people down. So I'd say Colonial. I don't know. Help me out, number 5.
So I'll give you mine. So I process this maybe as like ones you hadn't played. So I'm in a weird spot because I've been to all of them, but I haven't played a lot of them. I've played a good amount, but so for me, it's Muirfield Village. So I've been there a gazillion times, never played it. I've actually never played TPC Sawgrass, despite being there all the time. I feel like 17 is one of those holes you got to play. Diamante, because that means I'm playing golf in Mexico. I played the old Colonial, but I've not played the new Colonial. So I'd like to see the changes, and yeah, there's a lot of history there. And for me, Harbour Town. I've never been to Harbour Town. It's always after the Masters, and I'm always just like really trying to stay married and get home after eight days in Augusta. So those are my 5. All right, we're gonna move on to the next one.
Was I supposed to prepare for this? I didn't realize we had the questions in advance.
No, you're fine. I only sent you the questions, but it's totally fine. Will Luke Clanton be a Ryder Cup pick? I'm gonna say no, but I understand the question. He does have 6 top 20 finishes in 12 starts on the PGA Tour, which is crazy. His whole run started at the U.S. Open last year, so it's been 10 months. And obviously Ludwig, getting the pick for Europe, but I'm going to say no. I think he'll maybe be in consideration, but I'll say no. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we know the Ryder Cup is very cliquey. It's very much about who wants to play with whom. The past body of work in the Ryder Cup is probably given too much weight, but it's a factor. It's the relationships with the vice captains and the captain and all this stuff. I mean, there's no doubt that Clan has a ton of game. That's been made very plain, but I don't think he has relationships. I don't think he's paid his dues, and it's hard to imagine they would take him over a Tony Finau or someone else who's in the mix, who's been in Ryder Cups and has been, a stalwart on tour for a long time. So I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, I think with Europe, with Oberg, it was almost a little bit of like bottom of the bear, like they were searching, and the back half of the order wasn't nearly as strong. So I think it's a little bit of a different case. I'm gonna let you answer this next one, Alan. Do you think the only way to stop slow play is to have a shot penalty if it's over a certain time on the shot?
Yeah, that rule already exists. I mean, it's been on the books forever. Like we talked about this a few weeks ago. It's strictly a matter of enforcement. There are numerous statutes that exist on the PGA Tour related to slow play. There's just not the will to enforce them, and it's just that simple. So, yeah, a $10,000 fine is nothing to these guys. Losing an actual shot that might make you miss the cut or keep you out of contending or prevent you from getting FedEx Cup points or Ryder Cup points, like that is the only solution. If they handed out 24 one-shot penalties on a Thursday, the next day on Friday, the pace of play would increase by half an hour easily.
Yeah, so I was thinking about this because I did that ride along with the tour rules officials, and they were talking about shot clock would be so hard to administer because when do you start it or when you're searching? You know where it wouldn't be hard to administer it? On the putting green. Because there's no looking for balls, there's no, rulings, there's no group in front of you. When it's your turn, you have 40 seconds to putt or 45 seconds, whatever it is. Like Aaron Rai taking 2 minutes on the green. That's so easy to get rid of. So I think a shot clock on the putting green would go a long way. Okay, our next one, over or under 3.5 tournaments played for Tiger this year. I'll say over. I think he's going to play the Players. All signs point to him playing in the Players, and then I would say probably all 4 majors, or even if then he only needs to play 3. Feels like that's kind of an easy one.
Yeah, I think if it was 4.5, that might be a more challenging question. I agree with you. He seems like he's moving better when you see little glimpses of him at Sam's soccer games or whatever. Just a little lighter on his feet. We've seen him swing the club at TGL. Looks pretty solid. So, Portrush is a tough walk. It's not flat like the old course. There's a lot of elevation. You go way out and way back, and there's a lot of hills and dales. So that's a tough one. But Oakmont's got a lot of movement too, really. So I think they're not the easiest venues for Tiger, but he's not getting younger. He's had that most recent back surgery. I think he's gonna show up at 5 tournaments. Whether he completes them is TBD, but he'll be there.
Next one, this is for me. Any chance you could be working on a Bryson book? 0 chance. Do not have time to write a book right now. But also, I'm just not that sure that there's that much that's a mystery about Bryson. Like he puts out more media than anyone. I think that's probably why your Rory book is so compelling, is because he is so private.
Yeah, and I think that maybe that question references Full Swing and Bryson electing not to participate. I think he wants to control his media. That he's learned that he wants to own his narrative. He wants the spoils of putting everything out himself. To do Full Swing, he has to relinquish some control. So it's the same thing with the book, unless it's an autobiography where he has final say on every comma. But I agree. I think it could be interesting if it was sort of a Malcolm Gladwell approach where you kind of get into his head and you explore all these crazy theories and the non-traditional thinking, because that's really the Bryson DeChambeau story, is coming at everything from a different direction. And it's led to a lot of success. It's taken him off the rails a few times, but he's not a linear thinker. He's not bound by convention. That is what makes him compelling. He's, as a personality, I don't think he's had a big enough life to carry a book per se. But I think if you get him talking about astrophysics and everything else, it could be morbidly fascinating. I don't know how many people actually want to read it, but there is a book there if Bryson would really open up his brain and his life. But I don't think he wants to go down that road.
Yeah. Next one is for you. What was Jake Knapp thinking?
Man, the Jake Knapp love on Thursday, and it just petered out. I mean, my favorite part of the whole thing was when they showed him in the gym, doing 155 on the incline. Like, I can do 155 on the incline. If you want.
I'm Alan. Oh.
I'm just saying it's not that impressive. I'm like a sort of out of shape sports writer. Like, throw some more 45s up there, Jake. Like, if you want to wow the fans at home, that bit made me laugh. Like, that's so golf. Like, oh, this guy, he's so macho. He's such a badass. He's got 155 on the incline. Like, come on, man. So what was he thinking? It's just, under pressure, you make physical mistakes, but it's the mental mistakes that are killers, right? And the ability to think clearly and to process information and to make the right choice, that's a learned skill. And clearly, he's still learning it.
I think there was a question from the chat. Do we have a question from the chat?
Yeah, we got a couple good ones, but I want to read this one. So we were just talking about the Ryder Cup.
Okay.
Who do you think will miss making the Ryder Cup team that will surprise us?
Wow, now we have to think on our feet. Really putting us on the spot here.
I know, and there's so much meaningful golf in front of us.
Yeah, but no, we both have to come up with an answer. That's not acceptable. I don't think
just came up with a Bryson Book idea on the fly.
I'm gonna say maybe not so much a surprise, but Fitz has been on the last three, and I'm worried about it. So I don't know if that's the European team, but I'm worried about it.
Well, I'm gonna say Jordan Spieth. I mean, he's been a stalwart for the U.S. and
you're not encouraged by the last couple of weeks.
Marginally. But I think the lesson of the Ryder Cup the last few times around is the old boys club, the Jupiter crew. That's not a winning formula. And Keegan was chosen partly because he's an outsider, and that's part of his appeal. Is he's not in the clique. And I think that they brought him in to make some tough calls. And if Spieth is just not playing well, I think we're past the point of having emeritus selections to the U.S. Ryder Cup team. Like, you got to come in playing well, you got to earn it. I mean, this is going to be a holy war at Bethpage. It's going to be probably the most intense Ryder Cup since Kiowa. And you need guys who are playing with total confidence and their game is just rock solid. And it's not about what they did in 2015. It's not about some putt they made, a decade ago. Like, it's what have you done in the last 6 months that really matters. So, of course, if Spieth can find it, he's an asset. I mean, we all know he's gritty and that match play when the guy's up saving par from everywhere and he's making 8-footers to have holes, like, he has that, but he's got to refine it.
Wasn't there one about the contracts, live contracts?
Oh yeah, any updates on those?
Yeah, well, I just saw that Fred Couple said that Brooks Koepka wants to come back, and I saw Brooks was at TGL. You know anything, Alan?
Yeah, Fred's indulges in wish casting a fair amount on his Twitter. God bless him. He's been flying the flag for the PGA Tour this whole time, which I respect. He's taken a very strong stance. It's his legacy. It's his home. But it's just, as we talked about previously, this is a humongous year. The big contracts of the captains and the most important players are going to start lapsing, and so this is the existential question for this year. Does he double down? They've already put $5 billion into the model. Does he have the appetite to keep going? Because, I said if they lose Bryson and Brooks, it's over. Not literally. Liv is going to endure as long as His Excellency wants it to. But from a credibility standpoint, those are the two guys who are really carrying the tour, along with Neiman.
Rahm.
And, I guess, but Rahm's kind of disappeared into a black hole, and Rahm's locked in. He's, he just signed his contract, so Rahm's not in the conversation about who's going to leave yet. But Brooks and Bryson are, and so Liv has just hung its credibility on. We've got major championship winners, we've got studs, and if you lose those two guys, does Yasir want to put up another $200-300 million for each one? We're going to find out, because that's what it's going to take. They have the leverage now, because if they go back to the PGA Tour, it's a death blow to Liv. And so it's just like the contracts when Liv announced its first schedule way back in 22, all of a sudden now the credibility of the whole thing was on the line, including Yasir, including his boss, MBS. And that's when the numbers started skyrocketing, because agents knew that. Schedules announced, they need players.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of the same thing. It's like, all right, Liv is going to endure. They're signing these contracts into 2031, but they need players, and so the leverage is flipped way back to the established guys on Liv Golf, and they know that. And so it's going to take a lot of money and a lot of fortitude to keep them. And this is like gut check time for Yasir.
All right, let's go back to we have two more questions, I believe. One of them was, at what point does the PGA Tour admit that signature events are not working and go back. I actually disagree with this. People have always bitched about there's too many tour events. They basically shrunk the tour to like 12 or 13 events. And there's an A tour and a B tour, and everything that happens in these weeks, like the Cognizant Classic or Mexico Open, is kind of a bonus. Whereas weeks like Bay Hill and weeks like the Players Championship, that's where the eyeballs are. The ratings have been good. I think the signature event is probably. I don't think they're going to go back to what they did before. I think they're going to lean more into that, where there's big events that are in big cities at great golf courses, and then the other ones, that's kind of by the wayside, right?
Yeah, I mean, the signature events have been a success for gathering the best players more often. That was their whole mandate. It's worked, and they've been good tournaments. I agree with that. The challenge is you have another, 30 plus on the schedule. So as long as you're going to have a tour event, you need some players to show up. If they take those 30 tours and they cut it in half, now you're going to get more of the stars to turn out because they got to tune up. They've got contractual obligations. They just want to play golf. So the tour schedule, there's just too many of these B-list tournaments, as you're saying. But I think there's definitely a way forward. It's about contraction, because when you consolidate all the stars to the signature events, now they're just taking all the other weeks off, and that's a problem. You used to at least get a smattering of guys you really cared about at every event. There might be a couple turkeys, but other guys would just show up because it's their hometown, because their wife likes a spa, because whatever it was. But now they're so consolidated around the signatures that every other tournament is really withering. So I think some long overdue, fat trimming is in order for the PGA Tour schedule.
Our last one. Actually, I have one more, but who would win in a golf match year-round? This is the easiest question. I think I could probably, if I played with one club, I think it might be close.
Oh, come on. We had a match at Palmetto. I think it went to the last hole.
I do not remember it going to the last hole.
I definitely do.
Okay, well, I won it still. Otherwise, you wouldn't be saying that you
made
won.
a huge putt on 17. Now, I was getting some strokes, which is why they invented the handicap system. But yeah, he's young. He's in his prime. He's a superior golfer. But
I've got one more question for you. You tweeted something that Tim Rosefort put you in a headlock at the Masters. What happened?
I answered that in the comments, but we were talking about the early days of like the reader mailbag. So this is around the turn of the century, and somebody asked, which reporter on the Golf Beat plays the most golf? And I said, oh, Rosie by far. I thought I was celebrating. I was hailing him. That's like, wait, that was attaboy. Way to go, Rosie. But he thought I was blowing up his spot, and like I was disparaging him. So I was just sitting there typing away, probably some beautiful lead, the words are flowing. Like that's Scott Fitzgerald. And all of a sudden, like some big mofo comes up behind me. He's like trying to twist my head off like a fucking bottle cap. And I didn't even know what was going on. Some other guys jumped in and peeled him off of me.
So he was actually mad.
He was mad. And, Rosefort, he was a football player. He was like a fullback. And he's just kind of had that mentality. So, it was mostly amusing because I didn't lose consciousness. And, it took a little while to settle down, but this was all in the context of, I guess, some NBA guys had a little NFL had a little
Ian Rappaport, who I'm not related to, by the way, and Jordan Schultz, and then he told on him or something.
Yeah, like a report got made to NFL security. Like, I didn't run to the nearest green jacket and tattle on him. Like, we settled it man to man, like you're supposed to, and he apologized, and we had a bro hug, and it was fine. But I always gave Rosie a little bit of a wide berth after that. Like, he couldn't quite take a joke.
That's awesome. I love that. We'll do it again soon, Alan. You're the man. Thanks for playing hurt.
Yeah, happy to be here. See it.
The only time I ever got suspended from school, I put someone in a headlock.
Really?
Yeah. So it was a bit I was doing at the time where I was going up to people and saying, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep. And then if they went like that, I would let them out of the headlock. But this kid, he didn't think it was funny.
It's a good bit.
So he kind of gave me like a little punch in my gut, and then I tightened the headlock.
Then you got in a real fight.
Yeah, then it was a real fight.
You want to know when I got suspended?
What did you get suspended
for? I had
for?
a laser pointer at the basketball game.
Oh, yeah.
Or my friend had a laser pointer. He handed it to me, and I was playing with it, and I got suspended for one day. But I was a rising star in the basketball team, and the coach got me out.
There you go. Amazing.
Then
Look at us, just two suspended boys.
Yeah, we're bad boys.
We're going to bring on Rick Gehman. We love this segment. Rick did not successfully pick the winner last week, but he did have a good week. We had what was it, Højgaard top 20, and we had the Bay. So are you feeling good about, the Bay beating Jupiter, I think it was, whatever it was.
Yeah, that was the easy one. Bay beats the Jupe golf links, and then Højgaard rallied for us over the weekend to get us inside the top 20. So I do feel like I've got a pretty good finger on the pulse. But Dan, real quick, so the Alex Myers stuff is brilliant with the 82 wins. This is, I don't know how many people have seen this before. This is a Nike TW logo that they released and then turned it into Tiger's Chase for 83, that they then quietly kind of had to.
Wait, did you buy that? Was that for sale?
Yeah, for like 2 months. I had to go on eBay and find one of these. I think like right after the Masters win in 2019, and they came out with this logo, this Chase for 83 logo. And then as they realized it was not going to happen, they kind of just stopped dealing with it. But that TW flipped on the side to look like 83 is sick.
What a find. What a find. Wow, I wasn't expecting that.
Never
Okay.
seen that.
Yeah, I never seen that. So we got the big stars back in action this week. We got the Arnold Palmer Invitational at Bay Hill. Give us a pick.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of concern for guys at the top of the board, right? I mean, Xander's back in action for the first time. You've got Hideki, who hasn't been driving it very well. Patrick Cantlay kind of has something wrong with him in some facet of the game every single week. So I hate to live near the top here, but I've gone with Rory McIlroy. Dan, when you start looking at golfer course combinations, any golfer on any golf course, Rory McIlroy at Bay Hill is about as good as it gets. You know, you'll get some Jordan Spieth, some Jason Day, some Dustin Johnson at Pebble Beach, but like Rory at Bay Hill is about as good as it gets. He's got the skills. He's playing great this year. I've got very little concerns at, you know, somewhere between 8 or 9 to 1, depending on where you're looking.
I saw Victor Hovland. You like Victor Hovland to finish in the top 10. You're riding the Victor train. It's a roller coaster. It feels like it's a new coach. It's a new action every week. How are we feeling about the state of Victor Hovland?
Yeah, one stop only on this train, I think. You know, you got to get on, you got to get off, you got to be very cautious. You don't just ride this train, you know, the whole time. But I think there's a couple of good things. I want to be early on Victor. The pedigree shows that when he's got the good stuff, I mean, he could win this golf tournament. I also think that it's a place that should allow him to lean into the best part of his game right now, which is the ball striking. And I think it'll kind of cover up some of the bad stuff around the greens. I mean, it's just thick rough around the greens. Victor's generally been pretty good at Bay Hill and playing out of thick rough. So I think that as far as golf courses go in the current state of Victor's game, this is probably a pretty good spot for him. If he's got the good stuff, top 10 certainly within the mix, and you're getting nearly 3.5 to 1 on that. So I believe in Victor, but we're going to take it case by case at the moment.
Okay, so Live Golf is back in action this week. They're playing at Hong Kong. I saw you tweeting, so they do have stroke. I think someone came on the show and said it's a data black hole, but it's not, right? They have strokes gained?
To Live Golf's credit, they have tracked basically every shot in the history of their league. That dates back to 2022. Now, they don't always make this widely available. I have a data deal with them, Dan, so I get the strokes gain numbers from them, but they've been calculating this for years. So, yeah, this is all available and out there. They need to do a better job of showcasing it, quite frankly. But, yeah, you can go see, like, Cam Smith, still a very good putter. John Rahm and Bryson DeChambeau are doing what you'd expect them to do, but you can get a better pulse on the rest of the league as well.
So who do you like this week in Hong Kong?
Yeah, so there's some really cool markets for Hong Kong because it is a smaller field. So there's a top 16 market for Dean Burmeister, which is close to even money. You pay a little bit of juice. It's minus 120. And Mean Dean not only finished 8th here last year, but he's played well in South Africa last week. In the 2 starts that he's got on Live Golf this year, it's a 12th in Adelaide. It's a 4th place finish in Riyadh. I think, you know, we've seen him basically since he started on Live Golf be a top 15, maybe top 10-ish player. A lot of the oxygen gets, you know, the top of the board where those guys are actually winning golf tournaments. Dean Burmeister routinely in the mix, and he's just got to finish in like the top third of the field this week.
Yeah, you got to recalibrate with the top 16. We got to remember it's 48 people. So as always, we very much appreciate you, Rick, and I still want to sign this guy up, so we're going to make that happen. Good stuff, Rick.
See you guys.
I appreciate it. We got an interview. We did an interview. It was pretty cool with David Ford. So he's the number 1 currently on the PGA Tour U rankings. So this is the one that Ludwig Åberg won a couple of years ago and had immediate success. Michael Theodor-Bjornsson won it. This is a different than the PGA Tour U Accelerated, which is a program for underclassmen, which is how Luke Clanton got his card. But David Ford, UNC senior, is currently leading it. So if it ends today, he would go straight to the PGA Tour. There's a lot of golf left, but wanted to get to know David Ford a little bit. So enjoy this. I'm very happy to be joined by the number 1 currently in the PGA Tour University standings, David Ford. He's a senior at UNC. Obviously, there's been a lot of
lot of spotlight or a lot of talk about this program really since its inception. It feels like it was kind of long overdue, a pathway directly from college golf to the PGA Tour. Ludwig Åberg had tremendous success, the first winner of it, and we just saw Luke Clanton will lock up his PGA Tour card through PGA Tour U Accelerated, which is for the underclassmen. So wanted to bring you on, David. Been a pretty good senior season for you so far.
Yeah, it's been cool so far.
So you've won 3 times. You've won twice in the fall. Our audience probably doesn't really know much about you. So where are you from? How did you get into golf? Kind of tell us your backstory.
Yeah, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. Grew up playing golf with my dad. He was a really good player in college. Still a good player now, but he's kind of aged out of the competitive golf level, I guess. But he got me into the game. He's got one of the purest swings you'll ever see. So I guess I credit some form of a good swing to him. But yeah, I got into the game through him at about 10 or 11 years old, and just never really looked back since.
So why UNC? I mean, you're a Georgia boy. Georgia's a powerhouse. How did you settle on being a Tar Heel?
Coming to UNC was mainly a decision just based on the coach at UNC. I didn't see the other schools as having a downside. I more just saw UNC as having the biggest upside with Coach DiBattista. And I've said it before, but I think he's the best, if not he's one of the best, if not the best coach in like all of college sports. He's one of the best communicators you'll ever meet, and then his focus is on building relationships with each guy on the team. So it's very much just each guy is going to get better individually, and if a guy is willing to put in the work, then you're going to see improvement at UNC. And I think we've seen that a lot in the freshmen we have this year, just them being really coachable and wanting to get better for the sake of themselves and the program. And Coach DiBattista just communicating how these people, my teammates, need to get better, and also myself, in a way that's full of grace, but also just what you need to hear.
It's interesting you say, a great college golf coach, because I think, people might not understand. It's not that much on the technical side, right? Like these guys aren't your swing coach necessarily. You guys have people that you work with outside. So what does make a great college golf course, or does he help you with technical side, or maybe like how to practice, that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I think it's definitely less of mechanics and technical stuff with the golf swing and the golf game, and more of mental processes and approach to getting better every day, and taking long periods of time where you can just work on the same thing and get better consistently over time. And I think the thing I've learned most is just the mental process aspect of how Coach DiBattista coaches. It's very much we take the bad shots as matter of fact, and then we build confidence on the good shots. And we keep it pretty simple, and he communicates that to our whole program, but especially each guy individually. And it's really cool to see how guys just get better with that mindset. It takes pressure off of the bad shots, allows you to play with freedom, and it's really helped me just understand who I am as a player, and then swing it freely when it matters.
This program is new, and I feel like, does it add a layer of pressure to your senior year, like having this rankings that are going on in the background and knowing this incredible prize that lies at the end if you could finish number one?
Yeah, definitely. I think it certainly adds pressure. I'm thankful to have a lot of people around me that just remind me of getting better every day. And I think Coach DiBattista has spearheaded that of, like, it doesn't matter whether you finish 1, whether you finish 20. Like, you can get to the PGA Tour if you play good enough golf. If I end up number 1 or if I end up number 21, like, it doesn't matter. I'm going to keep playing golf.
All right, we're going to do a little rapid fire question section here, just to get to know you better, because I like to do this with guys. I feel like it's a fun way. So just don't think too hard about your answers, okay?
Okay.
All right. Describe your playing style in one word.
Free.
Who is your favorite lefty golfer? Obviously, not including yourself.
Bob McIntyre.
Really? I thought you were going to say Bubba or do you know Bob? He's not that much older than you.
I played with him in Dubai, and I was a huge fan going into the round. I played horrible with him, but he was awesome.
What's your favorite class that you've taken at UNC?
Golf. No,
we didn't come here to play school, bro.
Yeah. I don't even know if I have an answer. We'll say Communications 325. I'm in it right now.
What's the best golf advice you've ever been given?
you can take the bad rounds and the bad shots as a matter of fact and not let them affect your identity as a player or your confidence going forward.
Would you rather practice on the range or on the golf course?
I say both.
Good answer. Draw or fade?
Both.
Steep chipping or shallow chipping?
I think my release pattern is pretty steep. Whenever I try to get shallow, I usually just blade it. So I'll go with steep, but there's an asterisk there.
What is a song that is on repeat right now?
Worthy of Everything by Legacy Nashville Worship.
Last one. Best round you've ever played. Doesn't have to be the lowest score, but when I say that, what comes to mind?
I think a round I played at Atlanta Country Club, I shot 65 with a double and a triple, 7 under.
How many birdies?
I had 10 birdies and a hole-in-one.
Wow. 10 birdies, a hole-in-one, a double, and a triple.
I tripled the last hole. Driver 8-iron, par 5, made triple.
How did you make? There must have been some water involved.
I was 10 under through 17, coming off a hole-in-one on the birdie. And then I needed albatross, eagle for 60, albatross for 59, and I pumped 2 OB. Hit one right, and I was like, "You idiot! You got to be kidding me! The only place you can't go is right." So walk back to the tee and do the exact same thing on the next one. It's brutal.
It's the best feeling in the world. Thank you so much, David. I really appreciate it. Thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, we're going to hand out our dog of the week now as a runaway this week, an absolute runaway. It's Gary Woodland. So Gary had about as scary a health scare as you could ever have. It started when he began feeling anxious and scared, and that wasn't his personality, so he knew that something was wrong, and they found a mass on his brain. And anytime it's something on your brain that requires surgery, you start thinking really scary thoughts. And so he was on Full Swing discussing what he did before he went into brain surgery, and he said it was the hardest thing he ever had to do. Here's Gary Woodland.
Daddy's medicine. Here, take my meds, man. What's got me through this journey? It's been my family. 5 days before surgery, I was back in my room, and I decided to write these letters. I started with the kids. I wanted them to know that all I've ever dreamed of is being a professional athlete, but being their dad was more than anything I could ever dream of. Just know that I'm with you. And the same to my son. Don't ever be afraid to ask for help, because that's something I've struggled with in my life. And I just wanted him to know that those letters were the hardest thing I've ever done.
Gary was given the PGA Tour Courage Award. Again, you couldn't have asked for a better winner for that award this year. Here was Gary talking about what it meant to him.
Sorry, it's a little hard right now. It's been a hard journey for me. The last couple of years has been really hard. And receiving this is a testament to the people around me, because there's no way, one, I'd be back playing, or no way I'd be sitting here today if it wasn't for them. And the love and support I've had has been amazing. And it pains me to think that somebody's out there going through something and doesn't have that much support. And hopefully they can see me or see my story and realize that I battle it every day too. I'm very blessed to have my family and my team and the golf world behind me. And this award is for all of them.
And he's also just an awesome guy. His caddy is a hell of a player, and he qualified for a big tournament. And they're actually going to do a role reversal. This was an on-course interview from the tournament this past week.
But you qualified for the Senior PGA Championship, and we find out that Gary's going to be looping for you at Congressional in May.
He told me when I turned 50 if I qualified for a major that he'd caddy for me. Ended up making it, so I'm holding him to it.
You played great at Sun River. Now, G-Dub, what's your caddy history?
It's very slim. Roles are going to be reversed. We're going to struggle a little bit, considering Butchie does everything for me out here. I just hit the shots, so I'm going to have to learn real quickly how to do everything.
So Gary was a big star of Full Swing Season 3, and Chad Mumm, the executive producer of the show and the head of Pro Shop, is back here. It's now been out for 6 days. How'd you guys decide to include Gary's story?
So Gary was actually one of the first players we interviewed when we were getting ready for Season 1. We had announced that we were making the show and got a lot of inbound from a bunch of agents. Like we talked about last time I was on the show, we had this list of players that Netflix really wanted. That was our sort of contingency list. Gary wasn't one of those players, but he was one that I think he's rep by Excel. They reached out and said, hey, you should meet with Gary. So the two players that we met with before season one, I was doing like Zoom calls from my office at home during COVID. One of them was Gary and one of them was Keegan Bradley. And I remember meeting with both of them and like totally fell in love with either of them. They both kind of came out and said, look, we understand what these shows are. I'm interested in telling my story. And for, whatever reason, the focus ended up being on, this initial list. And so those guys, we said, hey, we love you. We'll circle back to this. Obviously, Keegan in season 2, had an amazing run and was an incredible, maybe the best character we've ever had in the show in terms of like giving us access to the most heartbreaking moment. And I thought we'd really never top that. And then, here comes Gary, who, is in the middle of going through all of this and kind of reached back out and said, listen, I'm still interested in sharing this. If I can help, anyone else going through it, I'd love to share my story. And he was so great on that Zoom in like 2021. I remember he told me a story about there's Florida Gary and then there's Kansas Gary. And, he's got a car for Florida. He's got a truck for Kansas. And I was just like, God, you see him like, kind of confidently like alpha mailing his way around a golf course. And you just don't realize how funny he is, how sort of heartfelt he is. And I was a huge fan. So, we said, absolutely. And he gave us such incredible access to this, kind of horrible experience that he lived through. And obviously his family had to go through. And I think even his team was shocked at how much access we had to his story.
Yeah. It was really, really powerful. And so I thought season 3 was tremendous. I told you that. I'm not just saying that because we're involved. But how's it performing? Are we happy? Do you think we're moving forward to a season 4?
I mean, that is completely up to Netflix. They don't share any numbers with us. Definitely not in real time.
Saw it in the top 10. That's good.
It's in the top 10. That's good. Yep. We had a good week, in terms of the show feeling like it's really top of mind. I think last season, we premiered about a month later because of the Ryder Cup. It took us a little longer to edit it. Obviously the Ryder Cup adds another month and a half of our filming schedule. And by the time the show came out last year, it was sort of like middle of March. March Madness had started. The sports calendar had kind of moved on. And so this year was really important for us and for Netflix to kind of get the show back in the kind of mid-February launch window. So I feel like we hit it right, perfect timing. And it seems like it's great. My barometer, we'll find out some news, in terms of, I think in the next 2 weeks, we'll start to hear from Netflix a little bit more. But I'm getting a lot of texts from people. They're loving it.
More than season 2, more texts than season 2.
Yeah, actually. It's my barometer is like if I do something and people from high school like send me texts, then it means it's like kind of registering across culture. And I didn't really get many for season 2. People were busy. But this year they're like, oh, like we love season 3. I didn't realize there was a season 2. I'm like, we made a whole show. So.
Yeah, you always joke about how you're so much more gray than you were when this show started.
Yeah, my God.
So I feel like I know the answer to this question, but do you feel like you could make this show almost like in perpetuity, like they do with Hard Knocks?
I would love to do that. I think that golf has this way of regenerating storylines. It's a sport you can play for 25, 30 years at a high level. There's always the opportunity for an amazing comeback story, a player who's past their prime. Obviously, we saw it with Tiger in 2019. We saw it with Phil. I think that golf has that ability. There's also this new wave of young players who are just much more social media savvy. I was on my podcast, The Vanity Index, this morning. We had Min Woo Lee as a guest. And he, just talk about a player who understands social media and, gets his own feature in full swing. I'd love to keep doing it. It's definitely a beast. Every year my hair gets a little grayer making the show just because we have to condense down almost 1,000 hours of footage that we shoot all year into like 5 hours of really good TV. And the choices that we have to make, it's so not binary, like leaving off one story and choosing another and kind of hoping that it works for audiences. And then, people, there's stories that we didn't get to tell this year that they wanted to see. And, it's like, it's always trying to find that balance and maintaining this, like, remembering that the show is going out to like several 100 million people who don't watch golf.
Yeah.
And the audience for Full Swing is just, the potential audience is way bigger than any golf audience. So we have to tell these kind of big, broad stories. I'd love to keep doing it. It's been the dream come true for me. This was like my passion project. It took almost 10 years to get made. So, I'd love to be sitting here with you talking about season 15 for sure. I'd probably have no hair by then, but
I'll be gray by then.
I'm in. Yeah.
How's life as a podcaster?
Podcasting's, it's been fun. I enjoy it. You have a much fancier set than we do, but it's been a lot of fun. Wells Adams and I have been friends for a long time. He's a total pro, reality show guy. He's been a radio talk show host. We've had a lot of fun. Our first episode came out last week. Hopefully everybody checked it out. We got a lot of fun in store. I think hopefully the world doesn't need another golf podcast, but I think we're at least offering something a little bit different. This connection between Hollywood and golf. And it blows my mind. We ask every player who comes on the show, or every celebrity, sort of tell me your favorite golf story. And every pro golfer has a great celebrity golf story. And every celebrity has a great pro golf story or golf story.
I played with Phil one time. And
the gambling and the betting and the jokes and all that stuff. So I think hopefully we got a little value prop, but I'm enjoying being a podcaster. This is a new twist for me.
I'm ready for you guys to start doxing some actual people with Vanity Index.
Well, we'll get to that. We have our running list.
You do have a list.
Oh, yeah.
It's just not public yet.
Not public yet, no.
And before people ask, the sweater that you're wearing that everyone loves, you're not going to find it in your local golf store. You have to get that in St. Andrews, right?
Yeah, this was in St. Andrews. There's a local golf store that sells merch from the old course, and it's I don't even know if it's an official. This is there's so many different versions of the St. Andrews logo, but this is the actual original, I think, club logo. And this is a blue version of the shirt that Tiger wore. He bought one of these that's white, and there's a picture of him in the window. And you go into that shop and you're like, I gotta get this. And this was Tiger as an amateur. I think it was his first time ever playing the old course. And so you go in there and you're like, all right, I got to get the white Tiger one. And they're like, oh, we haven't had those for years. They sell out in 2 seconds. So you can get red, you can get blue. But yes, you have to get this in Scotland. If you haven't been to St. Andrews, the first time I ever went was filming season 1. It was first time ever in St. Andrews.
2022.
Yeah, and it was just such a cool town. It's this mix of a beach town and a obviously the home of golf, but also a college town.
Yeah, there's a lot of students.
So you don't really expect that. You kind of think it's going to be
you can go out and you can have a night.
Oh, for sure. And everybody who's working at all the restaurants are college kids, and so it's got an amazing energy.
Yeah, it's a really, really cool place.
Off the beach in college, that's a hell of a
That's a good.
You never expect to find that in Scotland.
Yeah, I had that. I still have it. It's a Navy one, but Emma stole it from me, so it's hers now.
She can have it.
She can have it.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Thank you so much, Chad. We're gonna finish as we always do with Chirps from the Gallery, which is basically just Chris Powers' segment because he gives us all of our material. This is the favorite stuff from around the internet. Our first one, surprise, surprise, it's Chris Powers again with an unbelievable lookalike call here. Can we pull this up? Let's do it, boys. Our lookalike from Chris Powers. There it is. Brooks. How perfect is that?
That's perfect.
Brooks Koepka 30 years from now. That's Aldrich Poggeter's dad, who just looks exactly like.
It looks just like him.
Like a Brooks Koepka who's 65 years old.
And also the Koepka, this guy, they're all part of the Brolin, I feel like.
Josh
universe.
Brolin?
Yeah, Josh and James Brolin.
Okay.
They look like members of the Brolin.
Smart. I wouldn't have made that connection. That's why we keep you around.
Also, by the way, vintage Koepka, Titleist hat, white Titleist cap.
Yeah.
I think the first time I ever saw Brooks Koepka was maybe at the Honda Classic. Talk about a deep cut, but he was a Titleist guy. He wore the white.
Lot skinnier.
But a great flow. So, yeah.
Cameron Young. Chris Powers has a real vendetta against Cameron Young, which I love. Let's pull this one up here. He goes, this was on Thursday when everyone was shooting 8 under. He goes, at Cognizant, he goes, major shout out to our boy Cameron Young for pretending this is still a Holiday golf course. Thank you for your service. I think he missed the cut. Yep. He shot 4 under and missed the cut by 1. Probably my favorite one yet. We've got a chirp in support of Dan, which is very, very, very rare. So this was after we were talking about the Barstool stuff last year. Dan is the only one of Barstool's roster I'd let date my sister. Thank you, Dustin.
Wow. As good as it gets.
That's about as good as it gets. And then our last one, Ben and I are going to have a little debate here. I actually want to hear Chad's take as well. Let's roll the clip about playing golf alone.
Golfing solo is the best way to golf.
There's just something different about golfing alone.
No, that is the dumbest take I've ever heard in the world. This might surprise you guys given my social media presence, but I'm an attention guy. I like attention. And so when I hit a good golf shot, if there's no one around to see it, why did I even hit the good golf shot? I hate playing golf alone.
I'll let you go first, Chad. How do you feel?
Oh, my God. No, I hate playing golf alone. Yeah, that's insane.
You have a friend? Have you ever had a friend before?
I'm about to get double teamed.
You practice. I mean, maybe if you're out practicing or whatever, but, and then you're, dropping balls and hitting. But, I don't think I've ever played a round of golf alone where I've actually, played real golf.
No, what do you do after? You, tell everyone, hey, I shot 73. They're like, yeah, I bet, bro.
Yeah, good for you.
So my low round was shot alone, and I shot 73.
Doesn't count. No, there's literally, you have to have someone who attests the score on the scorecard.
There are 2 signing areas at the bottom of your scorecard.
So you like playing golf alone?
I do. I don't think it's the best. Semantics with the way they said it. I don't think it's the best way to play golf. The best way to play golf is like a few drinks deep with your 3 best friends, right? But it's my favorite way to play golf because golf is like a peaceful meditation for me. So I can't do that with the boys around.
Yeah. I just don't relate to that at all.
I'm getting judged really
I mean, that is my single favorite part about golf is there's just like no better way to get to know somebody and to spend some time. And like I can't imagine being like, I have a day off and I'm going to go play golf alone. Like that hours. Seems, that's psycho behavior. I mean, I get it. Like you're like the monk on our team. You're a Buddhist monk just enjoying the sound of the nature and playing. But man, I'm too impatient for that. I either need a game.
It must get so slow also.
I mean, if you're, well, yeah, that's true. If you're like, imagine being a single by yourself and like surrounded by foursomes. But if you can find an empty golf course, I can understand how that'd be kind of therapeutic. But
the joy of dropping a second ball and be like,
that's how you shot your low score.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you just drop second balls.
Being able to play solo and hole everything out to have it be a countable score, that is psycho behavior, and I respect that.
And having that be your low round ever, I would just not tell people
it's
that.
in my gen, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe we should
I play alone a lot, so it wasn't like an anomaly. You know what I mean?
I'll play with you.
All right.
If you need some friends.
I do.
I got you. All right, this is clip of the week. I found this like really, if you guys don't follow Arizona State golf team, they're an awesome follow. They post all of these crazy drills that they do like to end practice. And if you're ever wondering, how do these guys who all they do is practice golf, and you're thinking, when does anyone ever practice a fairway bunker shot like around a tree? The Arizona State University golf team, they do this. Let's roll that clip, and we'll see you guys next week. I love you, golf sickos.
Oh my gosh.
Looking on 2 different clubs from 92 yards here. This is Preston. Connor's hitting punch shots here under and around the tree, around the flagpole. 5 draws, 5 cuts. This is FIFA on a 10-shot TrackMan combine out of the rough, working on spin rates and carry yardages out of short Bermuda rough. When you bomb the driver everywhere, hit it long and straight, you're going to have 50 yards into a lot of greens, so that's what we're working on here. Nick Prieto. I think Michael likes 71 yards. Check this out. Nick's working on a variety of different lies, different lip heights, and different clubs and distances out of fairway bunkers. 10 shots. 18-hole putting course here. As a team, we got to get 10 under or everybody under par, working on touch putts, green reading, speed control. This, we're done. If he misses, again.
Oh my gosh.